Hey there, Red Spotters. It's your host, your Alexis J. Soto, with a introduction to this segment that was spliced from a very, very long episode. I have decided to re-upload the Top 10 Movies of 2019 episode, which featured myself, Peter Martinez, and Kyle Lira, into smaller-sized, bite-sized, if you will, chunks on YouTube to make it a little less daunting for some to experience this. I understand that we have a tendency to go on very long, so I just thought, what the hell? Let's see what this feels like when we extrapolate one person's entire hour, which is, how long we go on when we do these very, very massive list shows. So I hope you enjoy. And here is the episode.
Okay. I am gonna go and address some movies that I really enjoyed that did not make it. Again, this the way I approach this is that I didn't, well, like all the other years, I didn't seek out what was the best. I seeked out which ones personally touched me artistically, and I loved, I had solid thoughts on the top 10 that I have. Movies, unfortunately, like Parasite and Midsummer, they would be in my honorable mentions, but I want to dedicate the bulk of the top 10 to these certain films that I liked, or loved. I really loved. Because again, we were discussing this earlier, that we have an embarrassment of riches in terms of like films and all that stuff, that it was really hard to pick some of them, but alas, these 10 movies touched me more personally than some other movies that would be on other people's top 10 lists. And that because I've seen like the bulk of everybody's like discussions on like top 10 lists and whatever, movies with Mikey did his and everything like that, and I saw like everybody who's like on par with everybody. Okay, so the bulk of my conversation is number 10. With number 10, you really have to time travel with this one, because you pretty much get artists and filmmakers, pretty much a version of them from their heyday, and I would have to say that The Irishman makes my number 10, because the way The Irishman plays out, I mean, I said it before, you might as well pluck out Pesci in his prime. You might as well pluck out De Niro in his prime. Fucking the way that Martin Scorsese went about going about telling this story of this very, I wouldn't say leader, and usually De Niro is put in the leader positions in these kind of movies, but no, he's actually the lackey in this movie, and I find that really fascinating that that was not his role, I loved this movie in the way that it felt like a good throwback to the old sensibilities of the way Scorsese would make his films. I think this Scorsese swept it away with this year. I thought, and I liked how it subverted my expectations.
That's a trigger word to a bunch of right-wing trolls out there right now.
Yeah, you should have said a trigger warning before.
Trigger. Okay, trigger. I liked how it because in the beginning, little minor spoilers a little bit. I thought that he was telling the story to his daughter.
Oh,
the whole entire
really?
Thing. I thought that this whole thing, because throughout the whole entire thing, the interesting dynamic between it was a very little, it was probably F plot, but it was an interesting F plot enough to stick out. And I thought that it was because he was trying to make amends with his daughter and explain his side of the story before he went, because obviously everybody was dying, everybody was being, because they're old and they're getting into their whole bits and whatever. And I thought that the whole entire thing was just him trying to make amends with his daughter and like say, hey, this is the way I did it. I'm not proud of it. If you forgive me, that's fine. If you don't, and I thought that that's but it subverted my expectations in a way that he winds up alone. And it's very much like how in The Godfather, Michael Corleone winds up alone. Just like a lifetime of wickedness leads you to this path, and I find that really interesting, and it toyed with all that stuff, and it is what it is, and it's a really fascinating film that I think that that warrants, I wish I would have seen it in the big screen, because this is like a big screen kind of deal, it's Scorsese, it's Pacino, which, by the way, some of the best acting from Pacino I've seen in years,
all of them.
All of them.
But it was a miniseries.
Pesci, jokes. Pesci, very reserved. I was like, I heard whispers that this isn't the Pesci that you knew of him, and I was like, okay, but I didn't know it would be like this far. And Pesci, he didn't raise his voice once. He was very like, hey, I'm Joe Pesci, and I was like, wow, holy shit, the guy could like keep it buckled down, and I was surprised. And that shows a lot of restraints from like something that he's really known for, in restraining himself to that kind of level, and that takes a lot of like skill. Of course, all the dialogue is really witty. I mean, we've always referenced it and all that stuff. Yes, Alexis, you have a question. You're raising your hand.
I just wanted to say real quick, not to derail this, but there
you just did.
A lot of movies are going to appear again and again on some of our lists. So if we don't chime in on Irishman, well, it's because I guarantee you it's going to come up again. So just so people are aware of that. Yeah.
And I expect that. And The Irishman, I think that, it's an auteur film. It's an auteur film to the highest regard, and just give me a good mob Scorsese film, I'm there, and I absolutely loved it.
Apparently it wasn't as good as Casino. He asked some Oscar voters. But it wasn't fun like Casino.
You know what's worse? If things go according to how they might, in Kyle's eyes, it's not better than Cats.
Kyle, please continue with your list. I'm not going to comment on that.
Another thing of note is that I think that this is a very like thematically different thing from his mob films. Also, is that you're dealing with, instead of like the price of your crimes, you're dealing with the price of mortality, and I like that a little bit. Number 9.
Oh God, Peter, why did you do this to me?
Nobody went to go see this movie.
Oh, okay.
Nobody went to go see this movie, and it boggles the mind, but I've been wanting this movie for a long time. I got it, and I think that this is an interesting way to go. I've been a fans of these creatures for quite some time. And
Toy Story 4.
No.
Oh.
And I'm going to say, I know it won't be on probably your guys' lists. Maybe Peter's. I don't know. But I have to say... I have to say Godzilla King of the Monsters reaches my number 9.
I knew he was going to fucking do that. He does that every
He does it every time, and he thinks he's fucking slick every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a good one though. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. Godzilla King of the Monsters. This is the movie I wanted in 2014 but didn't get.
Damn, people hate that movie. Like, they really hate that movie. Fucking poor Gareth Edwards can't catch a break these. I'm sorry.
He directed the best Star Wars film. What are you talking about?
Diego Luna's spin-off series? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, Godzilla King of the Monsters. I love myself some good kaiju action, and I wanted an Americanized version of this that wasn't Roland Emmerich.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see where Americans could spin this classic Japanese tale. And lo and behold, we got Godzilla King of the Monsters. And my God, this number one, I love the way that they brought Akira Fukube. I think that's his name. I love the way that they brought in that score. It's just like, just blast that score in a big freaking movie theater. You got me going. And it got my blood boiling. I watched the movie. It was a double feature that I did by myself. I treated myself that day because I was in a mood.
Aren't we all?
And this movie got me going. And I was like, I had to call Peter after I saw this movie.
That's true.
Because I was like, oh shit, like fucking shit. I saw, this movie, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
If
and
I'm not mistaken, you were so enamored with this in the other movie, you went ahead and did a podcast without realizing Peter and I already talked about those movies beforehand because you don't listen to the show. I just wanted to say that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't listen to the show. Look at me. I'm Alexis.
Wait, did Randy Newman join the discussion? What happened?
I can't let you.
Joe yourself.
By the way, that was a terrific performance, albeit very confusing in the Oscars.
Terrific.
Anyway,
Peter said he was falling apart.
that's what made it terrific.
Pretty ageist
but anyway,
of him. Okay.
But anyway, I think Godzilla King of the Monsters. I mean, okay. The plot is very B movie plot, we gotta let the monsters do their thing, gotta let them fight, and
But that's the point, right? Godzilla is nothing but a B movie.
And they did it in such a great way, and the sound design of the movie, like I felt like when he went into full Atomic Godzilla mode, I could feel like it rattle in my seat, and I was all for it. It was great.
You're actually just in a 4DX showing.
Yeah,
they didn't tell you.
Oh no, it wasn't that. But I loved the graphics is massively improved from what happened in 2014. Charles Dance was very Charles Dancey, and I relished it. Vera Farmiga, I really liked her performance. She was a really good underrated character from the conversation of 2019 of film. I liked the sincerity and nuance that she brought to all that stuff. Oh, by the way, Mothra, never has she looked more gorgeous than in this movie. Like the way that it was shot, the way the like some of the shots with the King Ghidorah and Godzilla just falling from the clouds, just fighting and duking it out, just made it so it felt like I finally know what watching the Super Bowl is to sports fans. I was like all for it, and I loved it. I kept the tallies. I wanted some beer and wings to throw in the festivities. It was great. I loved it. I haven't had an experience like that in quite some time in Godzilla King of the Monsters. I was over ecstatic.
Just to jump in real quick, are you? Because I want to talk a little bit about.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I agree with you. I think this film is a love letter to the Showa era. It's that 1960s, early 70s version of Godzilla, where it's the silly, fun, heroic Godzilla, where it's literally all about the building, having all these giant sets, and then silly, goofy Godzilla comes in and destroys it while fighting these other monsters, these people in silly costumes. Like, it's all about the fun nature of that. And this was a very Hollywood blockbuster realization of that kind of film for Godzilla. They did a fantastic job. I agree with you. of just giving each monster their own personality. They don't all feel like the same faceless monster. All the monsters feel very personal. All the things that they can do feel very personal. They are the real characters of these films, and I think they shine through. It's beautifully, it looks beautiful. There's a lot of really great shots. The action is a lot of fun. It really is the ultimate fun Godzilla movie. I agree. I think it's I loved it as well.
And also, I never knew I needed a Serge Tankian cover of the song Godzilla.
Ooh.
I loved it.
Oh yeah, it's so. Oh, right when it hits the credits. Ooh, Godzilla. Yeah.
Go Godzilla. History shows. It's great. It's great. I loved it. Anyway, number 8. I mentioned in number 10 that I loved myself an auteur piece. And boy, this is an auteur piece. Feet and all.
Oh, no.
Once Upon
he
a
is
Time
talking about cats.
Oh, no. It's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
Okay. So, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. First of all, I never been more like, what the fuck is going on? What am I watching for a third act since probably in quite some time.
You mean the third act of the third act? Because technically speaking, it's like the very end of the third act, not the whole third act. It's
but like the way it plays out, it feels like the third act. It's absolutely batshit insane, but also I love what Quentin Tarantino did to rewrite tragedy, and I very much like that, and I like how everybody missed that point of the conversation of this movie. It isn't about like, oh, Sharon Tate, that she was supposed to die, and from the Manson family. No, instead it celebrated her life. It was Sharon Tate. She went to the theater. She went to go see one of her pictures. She was relishing in the fact that she was in one of her pictures. And at the end, Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie have a kickback, a couple of drinks. I like one of my favorite quotes from the movie. The way that Brad Pitt just says it is, "And away we go." And me and my sister Sophia, we always laugh about that, and we always have fun riffing on this movie. It's great. I think Leo DiCaprio did a phenomenal job, probably one of the best acting showcases of the year. The way that he did play Rick Dalton, and I think that his character, like the way that he was with Julia Butters, his character, like the way that he was like saying, "Oh, you're the best, actor. That was some of the best acting you've ever seen," and him being completely proud of that fact of a man who was completely run down. It is great. It is great. I want to see those episodes of Bounty Law put on Netflix. I would watch that show. I loved myself a little good old. I mean, it's pretty much everything that you've seen so far in Quentin Tarantino, you see in this one right here. It's like an accumulation of his career. It's very much like I keep on referencing this movie, but it's a good example. It's kind of like the Mary Poppins of Quentin Tarantino's career, because with Mary Poppins you see an accumulation of like all the tactics, all the story beats, and all that stuff that has been used in Disney films in the past, and all the techniques, and he just applied it in here. And I think that this is a good greatest hits of Tarantino, and if you like greatest hits albums, I think that this is a good way to go about that. And what else? The way it's shot, I think it's really nice. The soundtrack, I think, is really killer. I like the way it started, like a old school kind of talkie theater documentary. I really like that. It just like there's a bunch of things that added up that I really found that I was fond of. I like everything that surrounded it, and all that stuff. So, yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is an amazing film for, and I saw And I know it's not, but if this is Quentin's last film, I wouldn't mind, because like this is a great way to end it off with. Okay. My number 7. I have a question for you guys.
Oh no.
Why did you spill your beans?
Oh, I've heard of this film.
Oh my god.
Really?
This movie...
Really?
Really. You know, some people have good taste, Alexis.
Unlike some, I stomached this movie really well. I found this
That
movie...
was a pot shot right there. What do you mean you stomached it really well? Oh, come on.
Because
Shut up.
It is, because it is a delicious film. It's intriguing. I don't think
delicious as it's being crapped out the digestive system. Is that what you mean, right? Like,
okay. No.
It's like a beautiful lobster dinner.
It is a beautiful lobster dinner. Well, what do we have here? We have
Get
Robert
the fuck out of here.
We have Robert Pattinson acting his ass off. We have William Dafoe just being William Dafoe, and it's just amazing. The never undermine a man's cooking. You come to find out with
now
this movie.
I know what MSNBC felt like when they saw Bernie winning.
He has a vendetta against this film, Kyle. I don't know what it is.
Fuck you.
I don't know what it is again. Yeah.
This feels like.
Also, it's a bold move to the way that Robert Eggers filmed this movie.
I agree 100%.
This feels like the fall of France to Nazi Germany back in 1940.
Holy shit. Okay.
Just throwing it out there.
Wow, so dour. I don't know why. You know, you are not the jellicle choice.
That's
and just imagine,
damn sure.
yet that movie's higher.
Well, we'll see.
So I like The Lighthouse. It's very interesting. I wish I was on this episode, but I'm very trepidatious because of
you were invited. You were invited, and you chose to take a nap. What are you talking about?
It was Mimi time. Come on.
No, it was not. It was not Mimi time because if it was just The Lighthouse and The Lighthouse alone, I would have joined. But I'm trepidatious about another film that it just so happens to also be on my list.
Oh, okay.
Wait, oops.
Oh, okay.
Oops.
Okay.
So I think that The Lighthouse is really fascinating. I mean, Robert Eggers, I think, in the way that his career is shaping out, I'm going to make a bold statement. I think he's going to be this generation's John Carpenter. Because of like the choices that he makes and everything like that. It's just, I love The Witch. So I was like, this better like live up to that in terms of like his follow-up picture, and it did that and more. You see homoeroticism and men just being men and turpentine and honey drinking things, and it's just like these two men. It is very simple in its premise, but the way that it plays out and the slow burn, ooh, that slow burn is good. Also like the metaphor and the way that the last 3 minutes of the movie play out is still ingrained in my mind. Just him looking dead into the what we think is a lamp from the lighthouse, and the way that he's looking dead on it, and it's like this, the distortion and the screaming, and it's very unsettling, and the whole seagulls mythos that goes on around with everything like that. I wanted to know what you thought. So is William Dafoe's character that seagull that's eating his guts out at the end?
I didn't think that.
Oh,
I've never heard that one before.
Oh, I read it as that.
Oh,
I read
really?
It as that.
Okay.
Well, art is open to interpretation.
Yeah, that's why I'm interested. I had not even crossed my mind.
Yeah, I thought because obviously, Robert Pattinson. Spoilers for The Lighthouse, by the way.
No one saw it.
They will now.
Unlike another movie that's on my list.
Yep.
I I read it as that because he was like saying, "Oh, seagulls are just fallen sailors" and all that stuff, and William Dafoe and the way that he was like, he was killed and all that stuff. So I read it as that, and that's my personal headcanon. That the guy eating his guts out at the end is good old, and also quite the curse. That monologue is awesome. Such a great way of like, and also sea shanties. We need to bring back sea shanties.
Yeah,
there
that's
aren't
true.
enough of them. I need more of them. So yeah. My number 6. This is a pure comedy with a lot of heart. And I like the way that it did this movie. And I think that as a debut, a directorial debut for this person, I think that Olivia Wilde did great with Booksmart. I loved Booksmart. I think that it is Booksmart. The dynamic between these two characters trying to catch up with forgotten times is such a fascinating thing with these two seniors in high school trying to catch up with all the fun that they missed out on because they were book smart. They were trying to keep it to the books, but then finding out that the other students who they thought was stupid and dumb got into really good schools and everything like that. And I like this kind of pure existential dread that these characters go on. And I think that with that being said, it leads up to some great comedy. Jason Sudeikis, that whole bit in the Uber car, hilarious. I like the stop motion bit towards the middle. Billie Lourd's character is a riot. I loved her character. She was bombastic. She was insane. You didn't know what she was gonna do. She could turn one way and turn the other.
This film had you at Billie Lourd.
Partially, yeah. But also I wanted to see what Olivia Wilde did, and she did really well. It's a great story. I think it's timeless. I think it could resonate with a lot of people who have lived, especially because us three, we were teenagers not too long ago. And I think that it does resonate with that storytelling and like trying to like with the whole essence of fitting in and everything else that goes along with it. I think that really makes it worthwhile and worth watching. And I think that being said, Booksmart is a great number 6.
It's wonderful. The only thing about the film that already hasn't aged well is in the beginning of it, there is a Warren 2020
God,
bumper,
I knew
bumper
you were
sticker.
going to bring this shit up.
So I'll just tell you right now, it's kind of been a little bit, aged in a horrible way, considering that means nothing nowadays.
Have you ever seen the, well, we don't know, contested convention. Have you ever seen and I know you haven't, the Eddie Murphy film Pluto Nash? In that film, it's supposed to be a comedy set in the future. Like he's on the moon and stuff in a casino on the moon. And when like they have a briefcase full of money. And when they open the money and look at the money, it's Hillary Clinton on the dollar bills.
Let me ask you this, Peter.
Thousands or something
Right.
like that.
Let me ask you this question. So you said that you knew I would bring this up.
Yeah.
How? Because I'm sure that stood out to you too when you saw that movie.
Yeah,
Like,
but
oh.
I'm not as crazy as you, so it's just like, oh, that's obviously that's her character. That's a great quirk.
Yeah, it made me
Yeah.
like her less. I'll just say
Oh,
that.
come on, you.
No,
we're not gonna go down
are
this road.
we gonna have this? Here?
We're not
I
gonna
mean,
have this here. Go on, Kyle.
Okay, Booksmart. Also the end. I love the way that it ended. You want to go out for some pancakes? Fuck yeah! And it just ends. Great way to end a movie.
You know what? I ended up liking this film a lot more than I thought I would. Like
Really?
Yeah. When I saw it, I was like, oh, a high school movie, okay. Oh, Olivia Wilde's directing it. Another actor that wants to be a director, and they just sort of, it's a little like they don't really work for it. It's just like, oh, I'm a famous actor, so I can just be a director now. But no, I thought it was directed really well. I thought Olivia Wilde did a good job. I thought the lead actresses were funny. I thought they were great. I want to see them in more things.
Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein, either one of those.
It's like
You know how
Feldstein,
I
I
am with
think.
names. But they were great. It was funny. I really liked the script. It was really, really funny. It plays, of course, with the conventional teen high school tropes, but it does it in a really fun and updated way. Like, yeah, actually, I really enjoyed this film more than I thought I would.
Also,
Go ahead.
Also, it brought up like modern day conventions as well that like did it really smart. Like it could have easily gone one way or another, and I'm glad that it went smart with it. I like there was a moment where Caitlin Dever's character gets completely heartbroken, and how like it's not the journey and the thing that you do, it's the people, whatever philosophical thing that you want to go with. But I like how the key core relationship that they have and like what turns her around is the journey that she took with her friend, and I like that, and the bond between the two characters I find really, really touching. In the way that they are portrayed, it's genuine. I feel that they're geeks, they're nerdy, but they work, and they're quirky in the utmost cool way, and I think that is that's wonderful. On to my number 5. We're down to the top 5. I love myself a good musical.
Toy Story 4.
That's not a musical.
Oh. I can't let you throw yourself away.
That's only one song.
Okay,
though.
okay.
I love myself a good musical, and I think that this musical, it flipped everything on its head, and I don't think anything. I have to say it's an experience worthwhile and worth watching. And lyrics by Elton John is not that bad. With Rocket Man is my number 5. Okay. I'm a sucker for a biopic. I'm a sucker, especially towards an artist that I particularly love.
I'm surprised it's this low, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Rocket Man, you see the storytelling of like this. You could easily portray Elton John as like some sort of savior figure, like all the other biopics do. Every time I think of biopic, thanks to you, Peter, all I could think is Dewey Cox and Walk Hard.
That's a fantastic film. Yeah.
Fucking shit. Walk hard.
What? Walk hard. Hard.
But I think that this is particularly interesting because they take the biopic trope and they flip it on its head, and they tell a completely different story while having somewhat of the same backbone, but they do something else with it that I think is really unique. How like all the songs are pretty much his inner monologue. I really like that. It's filmed like a musical that I really like, and it is very much in the tone of what Elton John would be, this big bombastic character with huge tragic flaws of like pushing people away and like being toxic and being a complete douchebag to his good buddy Bernie Taupin, who was there and just couldn't take his toxicity anymore, and just like completely washing his hand from that. I like that. And Taron Egerton, I think he is Elton John. It's the same way I felt about when I watched The Runaways with Kristen Stewart's performance as Joan Jett. I was worried because I really love Joan Jett's performance. I really love Joan Jett. And I was like, oh God, I hope that she isn't just Bella Swan and all that stuff. But no, she became Joan Jett. And that's the same thing with Taron Egerton. And honest to God, I think he was robbed. I think instead of Joaquin, I think it should have went to Taron this year. If Rami Malek got the Oscar nomination for this for his role as a lip syncing version or a TikTok version of Freddie Mercury. God, this is such a huge disservice to what Taron Egerton brought to the table in terms of playing such a legendary figure such as Elton John. I like the fact that he actually sang. I love the fact that all the artists in the movies actually sang their parts. I like the moment. One of my favorite moments of the movie that I could point to is the Crocodile Rock scene, where he literally becomes the Rocket Man and takes off, and you see him in flight, and I love that visual imagery and the visual storytelling that goes along with it.
I will say I really like that the biopic, because biopics, like talking about Dewey Cox, man, do they get stale after. It's the same story, same journey. I like that there was an attempt to tell it in an interesting way, and like you said, in a way that doesn't hold back as far as the faults of the character.
The way that they performed Freddie Mercury's character in Bohemian Rhapsody, and I know I keep on going, but it's the same. It's kind of cut from the same cloth.
Mm-hmm.
The same director worked on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's basically directed by the same person.
But the way that they performed, because Freddie Mercury, he was also toxic as well, really toxic, and they didn't really portray him in that light. It was very sanitized, and I like how it wasn't sanitized in this. I like how they let this movie's freak flag fly, and I like that, and I was really worried that they were going to go that route. But then I was watching it, and also this is a great appetizer for Godzilla King of the Monsters, because I double featured these two movies, and I loved it. I loved Rocket Man. I loved the way that it was told. I want to see what more biopics do in this kind of way, because this is really interesting. A flat out
and not
musical.
just in character. I just want to say quickly, because I agree with Peter about the attempt made to make this a different journey for the character, but I love the attempt by Dexter Fletcher in particular, and certainly you can consider the fact that Elton John was very much involved in this as a factor, but the fact that how it was advertised as a musical fantasy. They leaned into the musicality, the musical elements of what you would find in a musical into this biopic, where it really is a musical biopic rather than just seeing scenes of the guys just sing the songs in a concert or anything. There were dance sequences, costumes, all that crap.
They didn't drive by NASA and go, Rocket Man. Rocket. There was nothing like that.
But it's also, I love the fact that he's like fighting with his past too.
Yeah,
the echoes of his past is constantly haunting him.
You really got to give Elton John, the man, credit, because someone of his age who's been a star the vast majority of his life, like usually you at that point you get massive egos, and you're like, no, you want to portray yourself as this amazing heroic person, and for him to go like, no, like if I'm gonna tell the story of my life, I'm gonna be real about it. Like I respect that a lot.
Like Queen did.
Okay.
The polar opposite of what Elton did with what he allowed this film to be is what this Frank Sinatra movie can never get made.
Yeah. Oh God.
I wanted that movie so bad because I love Frank Sinatra and I love his.
Or that Sacha Baron Cohen
was supposed to be Freddie Mercury
movie. Yeah.
And they were supposed to like kill him off in the middle of the movie, and just like the rest of them is so, I don't know. It was
and one of the funniest things that Peter has said, and there's a long list of that to be fair, but it's like it's funny how these like cutting edge rock stars are so like uptight about their personal lives.
Yeah, like these motherfuckers that were always like, oh yeah, fuck everything, rock and roll. They've grown up to be like as boomer as any like as anyone else, as far as like their like how uptight they are in their politics, and like the way that they view, like, oh no, you can't show that we did drugs and we did, we fought sometimes and we did bad things. And it's like, why? Like, that's part of your story. That's part of who you are. Like, I can, okay, you don't like it, but don't run away from it. I mean,
Yeah.
and if you really just don't want to air that side, don't make a movie.
Make a movie.
Yeah, don't make a movie about your life then, because that's a big part of your life if you're a rock star.
Oh, huge. It is detrimental to like the way you are and everything like that. And I think that this movie really shaped that. And honestly, yeah, this movie rocks. It rockets, man. That was horrible. But anyway, I really loved Rocket.
Oh wait, I can't let this pass. Shame on these idiots. Look, the Rocket Man had a performance by Taron Egerton, who not only was the performance, but also gave it his all with the singing. Not only did he convincingly appear as Elton John, he very much sounded like a young Elton John here. And it is so textbook of those assholes how, and I think I was reading an article about this, how embarrassing it was that Rami Malek won Best Actor for that. And then especially when you, in the next year, have the same performance, but really Oscar-worthy, and it gets no attention. So, just wanted to say that, and I'm sure Elton is pissed about that as well.
Also, the way that they okay, I think that it's a better technical feat what they did at the end when they recreated I'm Still Standing. They filmed it in the actual locations, but they superimposed they did some sort of superimposing with the music video to where like you could replace Taron, but they actually went on site to film all these things. And the original performers from the music video were technically there from the superimposing, which I found really nice on a level, and trying to get all that like gyroscoped and everything like that is way more impressive than trying to recreate Live Aid, with freaking green screens and CG people and all that stuff. Find that more impressive. But anyway, number 4. There are movies where I think
Toy Story 4.
No.
Oh.
There are movies where I think there is no way to put a closure on such a magnum opus of a franchise, warts and all. And I think that this movie really does it really well. And Avengers Endgame is my number 4. Avengers Endgame, I mean, we talked about it in gross amounts.
You've just went over Alexis Soto here.
Okay. So Avengers Endgame, I think we went in gross detail with this movie on the podcast and everything like that.
The audio commentary.
Well, first of all, that commentary was trash. I mean the trilogy though. We did a trilogy of podcasts.
Audio commentary was great and fantastic. I loved it.
I hated it.
Had a good time.
I had a terrible time.
Okay. But I think that this is really good, and I talked about it before, and I love that because this whole series, I'm going to talk about a specific character with this one. I've had my troubles in the past with one character named Steve Rogers.
Oh God.
I think it boils down to because you really got me guys in a sort of identity crisis when asking me why don't you like Steve Rogers when we're doing those audio commentaries for all the MCU movies. I think it's because
it was just a question. You're telling me that brought you down with just one question?
Fuck yeah, it did, because I started questioning myself. Don't ever let. Yeah, I started questioning myself. I think it's because I could never be a Steve Rogers. I can never do that. I think it's possibly possible envy from that standpoint, but this this Boy Scout, this utter Boy Scout, down on his luck, picking up that shield, and like against all odds was gonna go do it no matter if he won or lost or not. I think it was incredible what that moment signified for Steve Rogers, and it made me respect him like I never did in the previous movies. And I think kudos to the writers. As Alexis will insert the writers' names right here. Chris Marcus is Stephen McFeely. Is that the names?
Oh yes, damn right they are.
Okay, all right.
Those
good.
gods.
Good.
Gods.
Okay. Wow.
Oh my
Holy
God.
shit.
Oh,
Some of the
boy.
best screenwriters in the business today.
I don't know.
Okay.
Bar none. Bar none.
Watch out, Alexis.
Peter gets no say. Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
But I absolutely adored it. The tribute that they did with Tony Stark, I absolutely loved. A man who was honestly just like talked down to, no one believed him, and the end game is finally here, and he finally not only saved the world but also the universe. And I think that was like the ultimate hero move. And I think that with the final line that he sweeps in with, "I am Iron Man," it with that moment right then and there, it wraps up this beautiful movie series to a close. And yep, I don't think any other movie is gonna come out after Marvel. After that, there is definitely no movie being made after this movie under the MCU banner. This is it. This is the final movie. Yep, that's it.
Not Spider-Man Far From Home?
Or Guardians 3. I have a question, Kyle. And this is a general question because I, for the record, right? Where did you wait? Did you have? Is this the first Russo or Marvel movie you have on your top 10 list of the year? From the years back, think back to 2018 and 2016. I'm asking basically if Civil War or Infinity War were those movies in your top 10 for those years. Do you recall?
Maybe. I think Infinity War.
Okay.
I think
Do
Infinity.
you recall it being lower or higher than Endgame?
I don't know. I don't know. It was somewhere between 3 and 7.
Would you like
So-
to ask me, Alexis?
Peter, bless your heart.
No. I'm going to ask you. You know what? I'm going to take the liberty and asking you.
Thank
Peter.
you, Mr. Kyle. Yes.
It was nowhere to be found. That was the answer. It's curious because I know, Kyle, you particularly don't care for the Russo brothers.
I never said I don't. I never said I don't.
You
care
didn't
for the
have
Russo
to.
brothers.
You didn't have to. The same way you didn't have to say you didn't care for Captain America. Believe me, it came across all these years very obviously that you did not care for Captain America. And I have to say to you, you have to understand, Peter and I were not trying to spun off an identity crisis. It was just a question. It's like you seem to have some kind of hostility toward him, and you couldn't answer that question. from those audio commentaries of the Captain America movies. That was so weird and funny.
Anger, but
On
no
some level.
reason for it. Typical Bernie, bro.
But yeah, Avengers Endgame. God damn. I could go on forever, but this podcast can't go on forever, unlike some. Number 3. This movie is a movie that I think needs to be told today, and I think that for those who didn't get it, it completely went over their heads.
Leaving Neverland.
Cats.
And that is
The story needs to be told about how to treat a cat and how cats are, in fact, not dogs.
dogs. No, it's Jojo Rabbit.
Oh. Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit is my number 3. I think
You know, at some point in your lives, you got to go visit France. You two seem to have an obsession with French accents. I don't know what the hell is going on there.
Oui, oui.
Zigo?
Zigo.
Zigo being someone?
Moi, moi. Oh, that's just straight up Jar Jar Binks. Never mind. That's just Jar Jar Binks. Never mind.
Wow. We just lost France.
Oh no. Our entire France audience is gone.
Whatever shall we do?
Call Chris Matthews.
Oh god. But anyway, Jojo Rabbit I think is stellar. Roman Griffin Davis, that kid is going places. I love the story that it tells with empathy. I love the story that it tells with understanding of one another. Also, I like the personal story that you got. I think that if Roman, I mean, all the other characters are great, and all the actors like Sam Rockwell and all that stuff are awesome, but I don't think if Roman Griffin Davis didn't work, this movie would have the whole message and the whole heart of the movie, I think it wouldn't have worked as well. And this boy, shit, the way that he played this confused, troubled youth, you know, and the way that he had these like relationships with his mother, with this Jewish girl that's hidden, you know, in his house's walls, you know, and I think that the relationships that he develops with these people is tremendous. Sam Rockwell kicks ass, and I think everybody kicks ass in this movie.
Sam Rockwell is always your lovable racist.
Yes.
In every damn film.
Also, Taika Waititi, great job. Also, to shut this shit down automatically, of why I think that this is in my top 3, shoes. And that's it. That's my argument. Oh god.
Ooh, okay. You just brought this whole place down.
For number 3, and yeah. I think that scene alone just deserves that number 3 spot, because like the way that it tells such a visual way of telling that story, and like putting it full circle with the relationship that Jojo has, I think that it's incredible, and I think that this movie, yeah. Also, good job, Taika.
Oh, I love Taika.
Taika did really well.
Got an Oscar for this film.
Yes, and I was happy for that. Mm-hmm. My number 2.
Oh God, we're already in the top 2 with you.
Yeah. We're hitting an hour, Kyle. So
okay. My number 2. I think that this movie should be heralded as a cinematic classic.
Toy Story 4.
No, and it's just, why you keep on saying Toy Story 4? No, not Frozen 2. No, sorry, no. Both of you, stop it.
Toy Story 4.
Why Toy Story 4?
I can't let you.
Well, I can't let you. You're the one that's supposed to tell us why Toy Story 4. It's your list. What do you mean?
It's just two guys. And it's awesome. It's the two popes. The two popes.
Two popes in a hot tub 5 feet apart because they're not gay.
Okay.
I have to say, I am disappointed because I know what's coming and I know what's been eliminated, and I don't understand you, Kyle. You tease something. God. You tease something for weeks on end, and then you don't deliver. It's like, why the fuck do you torture us like this? If you're not going to actually deliver it, like, there's no fucking felines on this list. I'm disappointed.
We haven't gotten to number 1 yet.
We know it's Toy Story 4. Come on.
We haven't gotten to number 1 yet, guys. Hold your horses. The two popes. I said this to Alexis and Peter in our Red Spotlight Entertainment Facebook chat. This movie is a cinematic masterpiece. It's going to be listed as one of the greats, and it's unfortunate that nobody on this goddamn motherfucking planet talked about this movie. It is absolutely stellar.
Did you hear that, Peter? I guess we're nobody.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Okay. Other than those who cared, which is just us 3, you know, the two popes, like, honestly, honest to God, I could just watch these two these two characters, these two versions of these real characters just talk and figure things out, address their histories, address their problems. The way that there's a moment where Anthony Hopkins says, "I cannot hear the voice of God," and it's just brilliant and absolutely wonderful. And I don't think that this movie is being talked about enough. It is a cinematic masterpiece, the way that they told the story. Jonathan Pryce, good lord, awesome performance from him. Anthony Hopkins, no exception. These two spearheaded this awesome film of them talking about like religion in such a refreshing way that doesn't pander. And honestly, it could have gone that way. When I heard about this movie, I thought it was going to be very pandering about religious issues, but it didn't. And it was and to do it and in such a way, and the tragic stories and facts that I didn't know about, like them tossing the people out of the airplane, absolutely horrific. And this story, I think, will be hard. I will remember this story. I will remember the two popes, and the two popes, I think, is just phenomenal. And I think that as being amongst Alexis and Peter, I too was raised Catholic. And it touched an emotional core with me in terms of like where it lands and all that stuff. So the two popes is number 2.
Can I say it easily had the most sexual energy out of any film on this list so far.
Oh, surpassing The Lighthouse?
Surpassing The Lighthouse.
Wow. Holy shit.
I agree that.
Well, hold on a minute. We got Toy Story 4 to get to.
Yeah, that sexual tension there. Gee whiz. No, but I agree. I really love this film. It's one of those films I feel is like primed for someone like me. And really for us. It's like, grew up very Mexican family, very Catholic, I remember like having Pope John Paul II's like picture framed on the wall, like that was
he
part
was
of the
almost
culture.
like a family member.
Yeah. So this dive into these people is very interesting for me. And even though I know they're very movie versions of these people, maybe I think it's more than fair to say idealized versions of these people. It's so well executed. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I also want to say quickly, because I know that we had a discussion on our podcast when we reviewed the film about whether or not, if you weren't predisposed about the nature of Catholicism, would you even care about this movie? Mm-hmm. And I know that I did the last few shows. I did a show with David about his top 10, and he put the two popes. I think I look at the list right now at number 6 on his top 10 list, and he was not. He didn't care about this movie. He did not care about the subject matter going into it, but he absolutely loved how the film handled it.
Oh, okay.
So much so that he put it on his top 10 list. Like also, he really, yeah.
And that's really surprising too.
And he's not raised Catholic apparently, from what he tells me. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is way off topic, but I don't know if you noticed this. This is an issue I had since I was a kid. Like when you're raised a certain way and then you find out people are different, you're like, oh, you're different. It's like, but your default is to think that, oh, you're Catholic, you grew up Catholic, and it's like, no, they didn't grow up Catholic, but because I grew up Catholic, you view childhood that a certain way, right? Like, well, of course, right. You had this, you had that, so,
yeah. Almost institutionalized.
Yeah, it's weird. Go ahead.
Yeah. Also, it's surprisingly really funny. I love the part where they first meet, and he's like humming a Dancing Queen, and he's like, "What hymn are you whistling?"
What hymn?
He's like a Dancing Queen. He's like, "Oh, Dancing Queen by ABBA," and I was just like, it's funny. It's really funny. I'm surprised.
It's surprisingly funny, which is one of the reasons why David also really enjoyed the film. He wasn't expecting that kind of humor. A good humor as well.
Also, the recreation of the Sistine Chapel is ridiculous. I love it.
It's a disaster that wasn't at least acknowledged for the production design.
Yeah. Okay. My number 1.
Memories.
All alone in the moonlight. It's Cats. Okay. So
it's
finally,
Toy
let's talk
Story
about Cats.
4.
No. Okay. But for reals, we must look a little closer. And when we do, we see
no.
the donut hole
It's
has
Little
a hole
Women.
in its center. It is not a donut hole at all, but a smaller donut with its own hole. And our donut is not a hole at all. Knives Out is the magnum crescendo of this awesome year in films that we've had. I knew I was going to love this movie going in. You had me sold on the two names of Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig alone. And the way that it turned out even better than I thought it would. I thought this movie would have been great. It topped that. I was interested. It's a classic Rian Johnson, trigger warning, subverted my expectations by revealing what went down.
Somebody needs to keep track of how many times somebody says subverting expectations.
Towards the end of
like
the
4.
Towards the end of the first act, they pretty much reveal what went down. But alas, the story is not, again, it's a donut hole. It's a donut hole and a donut's hole, you know? And I think that this is a perfect example of a tight script that needed to be a tight script. I can't find any flaws in this movie whatsoever. I can't nitpick it. I love the performance. I love the dynamic between Daniel Craig's character Benoit Blanc and Marta, Ana de Armas's Marta, which is oh my god, stellar performance on her part. I want a classic kind of neo-gothic manner like Harlan does. It's just a cool little set that they did, and I like how very intimate it is. It's a very intimate story in the way it's told, and you get all these big-headed actors to come in and portray all these different colorful casts of characters that I think is just wonderfully put together and well said and well put. And I think that this is wonderful. And my house, my coffee, my rules, kind of my rules. And it's just
what I'm gathering is that you like the film.
I didn't like it. I loved it.
Oh my god, that patented Rian Johnson twist. You subverted my expectations.
But oh god, I could write a whole entire novel on why this movie worked for me.
Luckily, you probably won't have to wait long for a sequel.
Yes, and I'm very excited about the sequel coming out. There's so many different directions you could take the story, and it's just like you could even have Benoit Blanc coming in with a completely different accent and not explaining anything. Just completely do it. Be completely batshit. Awesome. But the way that it is shaped out and the way that it ended and dipped into its climax, I think it ended perfectly. It began perfectly. I think that this movie is what modern cinema needs. It needs something like this. It needs an intimate movie like this, and also it says a lot about certain cultures in this, and in terms of like the toxicity of them. And honestly, this movie could not be more tailored to me. It is a very Kyle Lira film, and I loved it.
It's I again, I don't know why I can never guess what your favorite film is when it's always obvious. It's the movie with the famous actors dueling the over-the-top bombastic act. Like, it's every time, and I always miss it. I don't know why.
But it's not just that. It's not just that, Peter.
But that's the one thing
only...
in common
No,
from every year.
Yes,
I'm telling
yes,
you. Ooh.
yes.
If we go back the past 3 years.
All you really needed to know was it was Daniel Craig. That's it.
Oh, God, that's true.
I mean, it's not a surprise, although I will say, because some people, apparently there's a disagreement about this.
Oh, what's the disagreement?
predictability is not necessarily a bad thing. And I think if I'm able to, foresee what movies will be on the list, I think it means that I know you quite well. And I will say, I like this list a lot. Really, I think you have a wonderful range of movies, from entertainment to kookiness, to practically all the colors of the rainbow for the most part.
Did you write down his top 10?
Of course. I always write everybody's movie.
Oh yeah, you want to just
go.
read them just real quick going down? So
Yeah, of course. So the top 10 from Kyle Lira, number 10 was The Irishman. Number 9 was Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Ooh, like that.
8, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 7, The Lighthouse. 6, Booksmart. 5, Rocket Man. 4, Avengers Endgame. 3, Jojo Rabbit. 2, The Two Popes. And 1, Knives Out. I will say, I'm not sure disappointment, but I was hoping to hear more discussion from Kyle either on Joker, which I know you liked the most out of all of us, and then also No Cats. I was looking forward to Cats.
And Toy Story 4, what the hell?
What's with you in Toy Story 4? I don't understand it.
I don't understand. You were the one with it on your list, and then I don't know what happened. I don't.
It was never on my list.
You say that, but I mean, come on.
Peter Martinez, I don't know. In the last Fantasy Fair that I listened to, Toy Story 4 was like mentioned like in a number of 10 seconds, and then they went on to brag about how great Frozen 2 was. Just so you know.
Oh my God! Now I'm offended. Okay.
If anything, it would have been Frozen 2.
Oh God! Really?
Toy Story 4. Yeah.
You know what? I can let you throw yourself away.
Oh shit!
Wow. Okay.
So those were my surprises. Peter, any surprises on this list for you?
Any surprises? Like it was a surprise, but it shouldn't have been. With the top one was, but yeah, I mean, I love that film, obviously. So I
kept on spelling it out to you guys, every week.
You say a lot of shit, okay?
Yeah, you throw red meat out there. Like, you let us on. You let us on thinking Cats would be on there, Joker would be on there, Toy Story 4 would be on there.
I did not lead on Toy Story 4 being on my list.
Well, somebody kept saying Toy Story 4 again and again.
Peter.
I can't
guys,
tell.
Anyway,
was it Peter?
Joker. Okay, Okay, I'm gonna say something real quick about Joker. Okay, I really love the film. I really love the film. However, I don't want to have that discussion right now.
Do you not agree that we live in a society?
Oh, we do in fact live in a society.
Well, there you go. It's the best film of the year. Just a quick warning: if my audio is a little messy, it's because this goddamn cat will not leave me alone.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fine.
As long as it's being recorded.
Yeah,
as long as it's not a dog.
She just keeps trying to rub up on the thing, and I have to push her away. Oh yeah, I think I really like the list. This is maybe my favorite of your lists. Thinking about the other ones you've made, there's been other ones where it's like, you bitch. That you have over certain films that you included. I mean, in past years. This year, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a good list. I agree for.
Kyle has good lists usually. I think I have it. I don't remember ever getting angry at anything.
I don't know, not angry, but just like, oh, you bitch, you would. This is more of that. I'm trying to praise his list. Now you're trying to make me look like the bad guy when I'm praising his list. Yeah.
Duh.
Overall, good. Highly disappointing though. No Toy Story 4. But overall. Good.